Okay, another installment of PB and Jax, Pioneers, Builders, City of Jacksonville. Got an awesome guest, not a Jacksonville original, but doing great things in Jacksonville. The president and publisher of the Jacksonville Business Journal, Mr. Drew Schrimsher.
Yeah.
I got it?
You nailed it.
First shot.
Yeah, nailed it. First take.
Yeah.
That was good.
Welcome to the show, man.
Oh, thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah. I am so excited to talk about quite a few things. I want to talk about your journey through the Business Journal all over the country.
Yep.
How it brought you to Jax. And then let's talk about the city. Let's talk about what the Business Journal is doing. Let's talk about how you guys are advancing Jacksonville through exposure. And then the events that you guys are hosting. And then at the end, let's talk about what we can do to make Jacksonville a better place.
Let's do it.
Sound good?
Sounds great.
Okay. So this story doesn't start in Florida.
No, it doesn't.
Where does it start?
In a very small desert town in the middle of New Mexico, where I'm from. Yeah. So originally from New Mexico, born and raised in a really small town called Gallup. If anyone's ever heard of it, it's usually because they were on a road trip to California or to Vegas or something like that. And they stopped and got gas there because it's on Route 66. And when I graduated high school, I moved to the metropolis of Albuquerque, New Mexico, to attend the University of New Mexico, where that's where I got my degree. I flailed around a little bit, you know what I mean? Changed my degree a few times. And,
what'd you get it in?
I actually got it in cinematic arts, so film degree. Yeah, so I am qualified to be a Rotten Tomatoes critic. Is what my degree qualified me for. Watched a bunch of movies and wrote a bunch of very pretentious papers on those movies and my thoughts on those movies. That's mostly what I did. But I mean, it was all in media arts and communication, so kind of makes sense. It translates, you know what I mean, to what I'm doing now. I did that, and immediately after college, I needed to find a job, and I hit up everybody that I knew to help me, you know what I mean, find a job, you know, and wasn't having much luck, but through it was actually my cousins. They had just opened up a coffee shop in Albuquerque, and the Business Journal there wrote about them. And while they were being interviewed, they met the publisher of the Business Journal there. It's called Albuquerque Business First. They don't call it the Business Journal out there. So the publisher of ABF, and through, you know, kind of small world connections, they mentioned that I was their cousin, and he remembered me because I was actually his barista for 3 years.
Oh, wow.
His name is Ian Anderson, and he remembered that I served him coffee for 3 years, and they mentioned that to me. So I sent him a cold email, and I asked him if he was still drinking the same usual drink that he got every single day. And hey, by the way, will you help me find a job? And he responded that night and said, I can meet you tomorrow. So went to get coffee with him, and I think he talked at me for an hour. I don't think he really asked me very many questions. He just kind of told me what he did. And I remember by the end of it, I'm like, whatever this guy does, that's what I want to do. And so he asked me if I had a car and if I had a suit. And I said, yes. Didn't quite have a suit, but I knew I could get one. So, you know what I mean? I stressed the truth a little bit. And he asked if I wanted to come work for him. And I said, absolutely. And I had no idea what I was signing up for. So I actually went on the ad sales side. So I became an account executive at the Business Journal in Albuquerque. Did that, was very grateful to have him as a mentor.
How long ago was that?
That was 11 years ago. So it was 2015. Yeah. He, you know what I mean? He taught me as much as he could. I just reached out to people who were really good at sales because I had never done sales in my life. Reached out to people, and I was gracious. I was, extremely lucky that some really kind people were gracious enough to tell me what they knew about sales. And I think it's pretty great for, kind of fast forward to Jacksonville, because Albuquerque is such a relationship town. It's a small town. Everybody knows everybody. Everyone wants to do business with their, the people that they know and the people that they trust. They take a lot of pride in where they come from. So that's kind of where I learned, the business journals and how to interact, in a corporate setting with different businesses. Then I was fortunate enough to get the opportunity to get a promotion to move to the Orlando Business Journal and to be the director of sales out there. I was with them for a few years.
How long did that take to go from ad sales when you first started to getting your promotion?
3 years.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So I was an account executive for about a year, and then I was the sales manager out there. And then I was able to do that for a couple of years. And then they moved me to Orlando, which is a bigger market for the business journals. I did that for a few years, which was wonderful. Had a great time. Loved, loved being out there, but all of our family's kind of in New Mexico and California. So when my company asked me if I'd be willing to move to Denver, it was kind of an opportunity, that we couldn't pass up. So I took a role with the Denver Business Journal, which was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work because, COVID had happened. There was a lot of turnover, on multiple fronts. So it was a grind, but it was a lot of fun. And I was fortunate enough to get an incredible team around me of just really talented people who I have a lot of respect for. And we were able to do some really incredible things. And I think because of that, I get a lot of the credit for a lot of the work that other people did. But because I did that, my company reached out right when it felt like I figured out what the heck was going on in Denver. The leadership from my company reached out and asked if I would be willing to consider moving to Jacksonville. And, the question was, what do you think about Jacksonville? And I don't mean to be offensive at all when I say this. And I said, well, I don't really think about Jacksonville, but what did you want to talk about? And so they told me about the position, and I started looking at the Business Journal, right? I started looking at the different stories that were being written, and this was at the end of 2024. So, the city had just approved the funding for the Stadium of the Future. Pearl Street, with Gateway Jacks had, that was coming online, and there was a lot of, big movement with that. And then I started looking, St. Johns County, has been exploding for, at least 10, 15 years. And when I was looking at it and I was looking at, the Business Journal things, I'm kind of like, well, this could be a pretty incredible opportunity. Like Jacksonville kind of seems like, it is primed for something really special. There's a lot of great stuff going on now, but the future of what it holds is pretty incredible. So yeah, took, packed up, moved across the country, and that was a year ago. And I've been here for a year.
Yeah. What a year.
What a year. Yeah.
I can't wait to unpack it.
Yeah.
My question that comes to mind through all of that is you wanted to get closer to family by moving west.
Yeah.
And then they give you this opportunity to go all the way back east.
Yeah.
So what was that conversation like with your family to say, hey, listen, like it was cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad we were close, but now I gotta pack up and go.
Yeah, it kind of was. I think they were just very happy. I think that they knew. So, I mean, it's funny. I tell that story about, the publisher of the Albuquerque Business Journal, and he, just kind of talked for an hour and told me about what he did. And I remember it was very strange. I was in my head, I was like, I want to be that. I want to be a publisher. Whatever that guy's doing, that's what I want to do. Because he was just talking about connecting people and the value that they bring to the community and what their journalism means for the local economy. And, the things he was able to do and the opportunities he was afforded because of his position just sounded like that. And so they knew, you know what I mean? That was like my first day as an account executive. I was like, oh, I'm going to be a publisher someday, everybody. So they kind of knew that's what I wanted to do all along. And there were different opportunities, over the years, and it didn't pan out. You know what I mean? Where it's like, hey, maybe this could be a fit and we could do this. And it just never worked out for one reason or another. So when it finally came up, they knew how happy, we were in Florida and how happy we were when we were in Orlando and our time that was there. And also I think, they wouldn't mind visiting us back in Florida. They're like, hey, beach house sounds nice. My parents are getting to the age where retirement is on the table. So like we could look at maybe a condo and, Jack's Beach or something like that. So they're really supportive and excited about it.
Very cool. How long is the roadmap typically to go from entry level to publisher? What does that career path typically look like?
Man, I think it's, it has definitely changed, right? I think when I first joined the company, if you would have asked that question then, it would be a very long time. It's usually folks, who've been with the company for 15, 20 years are getting shots at doing that. And they, it's typically it takes a while to get there. I do believe that I'm the youngest in my position of 45. We're in 45 cities, so I could be wrong. I need my editor to fact check me as he always does. But I've just been very fortunate. Like I said, like my mentor who took a shot on me, I was one of the youngest account executives. Like they didn't hire people straight out of college. That was very unconventional. Now it's pretty commonplace. Now, you know what I mean? I think that it's a little bit more accepted within the business journals, but back then it was very uncommon, and he took a shot at me kind of, you know what I mean? I was able to take some equity of his name and, get a shot, and was able to prove that. And then I've been very fortunate to have other mentors and leaders who are within the company who have, given me shots and kind of said like, hey, we want you to come do this. It's a little unconventional, but we're going to take a shot on you because we think you can do it. And they supported me through it. And I've just been trying to not let them down ever since.
First off, that's fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah.
What would you attribute outside the mentors? I want you to like be introspective. What do you think that you did differently that allowed you to progress so quickly?
Well, yeah, outside of just, great opportunity, I think for me, I'm always, I joke in a little bit of a self-deprecating way that I'm not the smartest guy. And I mean it. I'm usually not the smartest guy in the room, but I think two things that I take a lot of pride in are I work really hard and I give a damn, and I think it probably comes down to those two things. It's, I have a high capacity for hard work, just from the way I was raised, and, tip of my hat to my parents and my family for raising me that way. And I just really care, and I want to care about the little things, and I want to care about people. And I've always tried my best to demonstrate through my actions and through my words and through the systems we put in place and the philosophies that kind of drive the culture of whatever team that I had, that, I really cared about my people, and we really care about our partners, and, going, the extra mile to show that is, I would say, probably what's helped me out.
Yeah. You guys wrote an article recently on a company called Panda Technology, and the CEO, Isaac Altman, was in that chair just a few weeks back. And I asked him a similar question, and he said, we do unreasonable service and relentless protection. I will be unreasonable in how I treat you in a good way. So for you to say, like, I give a damn, to me equates to kind of what Isaac was saying, which I think is fantastic. There had to be some level of sacrifice. You are a family man. You have a wife, you have kids. So to what degree do you feel you had to sacrifice to make sure that you were making the advancements in your career, and how supportive was your family in doing so?
Yeah, I mean, incredibly supportive. I got to give a lot of credit to my wife because we've done 3 cross-country moves, and she was a champion the entire time. And she, helped make these decisions. I didn't say, hey, we're packing up and we're going. That's not the type of company culture we have. There are some companies that just say, hey, you're being reassigned and this is it. And you're moving, right? You're moving to, Fresno, and you have no choice in the matter.
Yeah, I was in the Navy. Yeah,
there you go. Yeah, that's the extreme example, right? It is more of a, hey, we would really like you to consider this. And it's not seen as a bad thing because we are a family-run business, right? Like the CEO, his kids work in the company, and the CEO knows my family, right? And he knows their names and cares about them. And in my first year, when they do checkup calls, they would ask, how's your family, right? Because they genuinely do care. Fortunate enough to have a company like that, but they were a big part of the decision set to do this. Luckily, the first couple of moves, my kids were so small they didn't really know any different, and it wasn't that big of a deal. This time, my son, he's 10 years old. It was a little bit different. He had a little bit more of an adjustment because he had a best friend in Colorado that he did everything with. They were in Boy Scouts together, same class, played at each other's house almost every day. So that was, an adjustment for him. When it comes to sacrifice, I'm really grateful, not to say that, I didn't, and not to say that I did it perfectly, or, because again, you'd probably need to ask my family, what they thought, and they'd probably be able to give you that answer more accurately. But I'm very fortunate, like I said, that I've always been able to balance it pretty well. And then if I needed to, leave at 3:00 so I could go pick up a kid from school, or I could make a game, or do whatever I had to do, or Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, whatever it was, I could do that. But I knew at 8:00 when my kids went to bed, I was going to get right back to work and get the things done that I needed to get done.
You got to fire the computer back up.
Yeah. So it's been one of those things where I feel very fortunate. I've taken a lot of pride in, still showing up for the family and being there for them, and still working hard. So there's definitely give and take, and there's seasons where I got to get reeled back in, where it's like, hey, we need to hang out. You need to shut that computer. We need to hang out. So but I think it's been pretty well balanced.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the difference between your role in Denver. We'll talk about the cities in a second, but the role was it the VP of sales?
I was the VP of sales,
and now you're the publisher and president. What is the difference between the two roles?
So as a VP of sales, I'm just overseeing revenue. That's just one department. So with all business journals, there's pretty much 3 departments. There's the news, right? So the journalists, which is run by your editor-in-chief. That's James Cannon here. He's our editor-in-chief. So he oversees the managing editor and all the reporters. So they all kind of flow up to him. Then we have our events business, right? We produce anywhere from, 10 to 13 events a year, roughly about one a month that we're doing. It's either a content-driven event, which is led by our newsroom, or an award event, where we're kind of highlighting the top people and companies in Northeast Florida. And then we have our revenue department, right? So advertising sales, that are working with businesses and, finding companies that want to reach other business. So like B2B marketing, you want to reach local business decision makers, local C-level executives, local small business owners. We're kind of the premier publication to help you do that through our digital products, email products, print products, and of course our like event sponsorships. So as president and publisher here in Jacksonville, I oversee all three departments and get to have a lot of fun,
That's great. What are 10 to 13 events? What are the award events? So we have 40 under 40. There's a female award.
Women of Influence.
Women of Influence.
Yeah.
Thank you. What else do we have?
We have our Ultimate CEO Award.
Yes.
We have Best Places to Work, and we have Ultimate Tech Leader, which I think a lot of the folks like through PS27 that you're involved with. A lot of those folks, there's a lot of crossover there. And then we have Fast 50. So growing, fastest growing privately held companies here in Northeast Florida.
Yes, those are great. So is that 6?
Yes,
okay.
I believe so.
All right, and then we have 4 to 7 others. Some of those are content driven. So what do those look like?
Yeah, so for instance, we just had our Economic Outlook, which is a panel event that we held at WJCT. Our partners at Fifth Third Bank, they bring in their chief economist for the whole bank, and he's wonderful because he understands the macro, economy at a level that is hard to wrap your head around, but he can relay it in such a way that someone like me can understand it. Yeah. So I always marvel and tell Jeff that, he does a wonderful job. So we have him give a keynote, and then, which is more of a macro level, right? Like kind of what to expect from a macroeconomic level. And then our editor, James, brings in a panel of local leaders to kind of give a different, like, what does this mean for Northeast Florida? What do we expect from here? So we had, Brooks Rehab, we had Mayo Clinic, we had an attorney from Driver and Associates on the panel, and then we had the president of Heritage Capital sit on it. So you kind of have your, the deal maker, like Cindy, who's the lawyer who's kind of putting all these deals together from a legal standpoint and getting them done. You have kind of the money flowing through, Heritage Capital, and then 2 of our biggest, kind of jewels. Healthcare is an incredibly important industry for us, and just kind of talking about the different different levers that, they're looking at when they're looking at 2026 and beyond. So that's kind of what we try to do. We really try to find an industry or a topic that is really relevant to our readers, and we find the kind of brightest minds in that panel, try to make it well-rounded and give them some content. Awesome.
And the other events, what's left outside of that?
So we'll also have, there's a couple that, we kind of intentionally left the calendar a little bit open, because there's a few that we're hoping to be a little bit more timely, that we can move quickly and pivot. And if something came up that we could do around that, but there's going to be something on, commercial real estate and development. Of course, there's always on that. Yeah. And it's going to bring downtown into the equation. And we're also playing with, kind of the idea of, really, at least for this year, looking at, the airport and all the exciting things, Concourse B opening up is a huge deal. And what sort of, what they're doing, what the authority is doing, not just with Jacksonville Airport, but with Cecil, and just kind of the way they're kind of using that development as a real economic driver to bring, a lot of employers here, creating a lot of jobs, a lot of economic impact. So there might be something around that.
I mean, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Are the events different in Denver versus here, or New Mexico versus here, Orlando versus here, or is it kind of the same staple?
We have the same staple. So if you go to any business journal market, there's going to be something for CEOs, something for female executives. We all do Best Places to Work, and there's going to be some component of fastest growing privately held companies and 40 under 40. Those are some staple brands that every single business journal does. And then the other ones are really discretionary. You can make it to what makes the most sense for your.
Did you bring any of them was there an event in a different market that you were like, man, this is really cool, and like you kind of made sure it was implemented in all the other ones you went to?
Well, Not necessarily. No, I wouldn't say so. So in Jacksonville, we kind of pared back a little bit just to make sure the ones we were doing them really well. And then, like I said, this year, looking at which ones we're going to implement after a year of, doing things and getting feedback, listening to our partners, listening to business leaders. What do they want to see? What do they want to get out there? And that's kind of what we're looking at.
Yeah, very cool. We'll talk about year one, man. What do you think of this city? I
Yeah.
know you originally you didn't think anything about Jacksonville. Now you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
So how was the first year, and what are your overarching thoughts about the city?
Yeah, I think that, Jacksonville is an incredible city. One theme that I've heard over and over and over and over and over again is people saying how much they love it. And not everyone can put their finger on why. A lot of people just out and out say, I don't know what it is about this place, but I moved here 15 years ago and I'm never leaving. And I get it. Now, there's a magnetism to this city. There's a magnetism to the people of this city that really draws you in. It's a very friendly and welcoming place from a business perspective, but even from just in your neighborhood, people are excited that you're here. They don't care that you moved here from somewhere else. So I'd say that I would say from, a business perspective, it is absolutely exciting. Again, not to be, I am unashamed that I'm an optimist and I am pro Jacksonville and I'm rooting for us and I want us to be really, really successful. And I want us to be the incredible city that we all want it to be. But I'm also, not delusional. We definitely have there's some obstacles in the way that might, be kind of pebbles in our shoe as we race towards, the city that we want it to be. But what excites me about Jacksonville is really how holistic the growth is, right? We were talking a little bit before how St. Johns County has been growing for a long time, right? It's kind of at the point where, we're running out of trees to fell, and you know what I mean? And homes to be built, we're kind of getting to that point. But then if you look north and you look at, Nassau County and you look at like Wildlight, that is going to be
That's blowing up.
Massive development. So you're really growing on, the north and the south are really kind of growing in towards Jacksonville and Duval County. But in Jacksonville, what excites me the most about the urban core is there's a lot of development and it's spread out, right? So you've got the South Bank, right? And all the development going on in the South Bank, what Fleet Landing is trying to do in the South Bank, bring in, it's a difficult, term it's not retirement. It is retirement living, right? It's senior living, but very active, very affluent seniors. You know what I mean? The 55 plus community who they want to be able to walk across the bridge and go check out a show, go eat at a restaurant, you know what I mean? See the symphony, etc. What Fleet Landing is trying to do with that is pretty incredible. You cross the bridge in Brooklyn and what they got going on over there and all of the restaurants and hospitality that's coming up over there. You just go over the bridge and you're in La Villa and you've got UF making a $250 million investment in a new campus there. You've got what JTA is doing with autonomous vehicles with the UTC right there in La Villa, which brings you over to Pearl Street and what Gateway Jacks is doing in Pearl Street, bringing a Publix, bringing in, more residences, shops.
The Trio.
Yeah, the Trio,
Yep.
Exactly what they're doing with the Trio. Again, more hospitality, more reasons to be down there. You've got the Riverfront Park. I don't know if you've been there like on a Saturday afternoon.
Not yet.
But man, it's hard to find a parking spot, which is a great problem to have in downtown Jacksonville on a Saturday afternoon because there's so many people who just want to be at that park and, walking their dogs. There's kids. There's people, just walking around, hanging out, which is great for those restaurants down there. And then, just past them, you've got everything that, the folks that who have Deck Alive, what they're doing on Bay Street and all of those, all the restoration they're doing with the historical buildings that leads you to the shipyards. And you're at the Four Seasons, you're at the Stadium of the Future. And then even, just above that, you've got like the East Side neighborhood and everything that, the folks are doing out east. And I'm missing a lot, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot, that I've skipped over, but that is geographically almost our entire urban core. And those are separate projects and there's different developers and there's different folks who've invested in it, but there's a lot of, and they're all being built. It's not, theoretical at this point. It's all being built.
Yeah. The cranes are in the air.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where there's actual movement. That's awesome about that. I couldn't agree more. From a business perspective, now that you've been here for a year, very intriguing time for
Yeah.
you to be here because companies are either moving here
Mm-hmm.
or people are trying to build. But I know that Denver's always been an innovative city, at
Mm-hmm.
least since I've been there a few times. It's definitely been innovation driven, tech driven. But now that you're here, how are you seeing that? I mean, you probably have seen quite a few of the articles that have been written
Mm-hmm.
by your writers. So what are you seeing from a business perspective that either excites you or doesn't excite you at all?
Yeah. I would say, one thing that's very exciting is how welcoming Jacksonville is of small business, right? We love small business here. There's a lot of small business. We champion small business, and that's like the vast majority of most economies, right? And it's really cool. And mayors get reelected and governors get reelected when they bring in a sales force. You know what I mean? Like, Salesforce moves their headquarters to your city or something like that. That makes headlines. And that's really cool. And that can be very beneficial for your economy. But the thing that really keeps it afloat are small businesses. So, the amount of small businesses we have here is really encouraging. But again, if you look at kind of like the backroom finance, you know what I mean? Like the folks that make the money move in the back, like, you have your FIS and you have your pay safes and you have all of these, huge companies with very large presence here that affect the ecosystem quite a bit, right? And there's just a lot, the Dun and Bradstreets, just when you look at sheer numbers of the folks who are employed here, that's a force. And there's a reason that they're here in Northeast Florida. I don't know how many conversations that I have with people who, they are like a new bank is moving here and there's a brand new market president and they're like, hey, we've invested in Orlando, Tampa, and Miami, and we're putting this person who's really talented here in Jacksonville because we see the growth potential in Northeast Florida. That's accounting firms, that's any kind of professional services and finance. You see that. I've seen it in just 1 year, the amount of companies that are, they might not be moving the entire workforce here, but they're planting their flag and they're saying, hey, we're going to get an office, we're going to get a team, and we're going to grow this thing out. And everyone has the same sentiment that, like, we expect really big things out of Jacksonville, a lot of growth from that perspective. When it comes to kind of more of like the entrepreneur and innovation, sector, that the world that you're really swimming in, what I've noticed is a lot of talented people, a lot of people trying to do really great things, but just talking to a few different, founders and those folks is kind of the infrastructure for them, right? Like, where's the infrastructure to really to help them go from I've got a great idea, I need funding, or maybe I have funding, seed funding, and how do I get more capital investment, or how do I scale those things? It seems like you've got a lot of pockets of that, and there's PS27 work that that they're doing and that you're helping out with to try to change that. But I would say that's probably one of the biggest differences. It seemed like maybe Denver's tech and entrepreneur ecosystem is just more mature. It's just further along. It's just been there for a little bit longer. But interestingly enough, I would say I knew, there are companies that were looking to move out of Colorado. So there was a sense when I was in Denver at the very end, which would have been 23, 24, where Denver was at a real like a precipice. It was really like, hey, we're either going to continue to be an incredible major city, or we're going to kind of like teeter and fall off, and we're kind of losing our magic. The thing that made us special, which was this wonderful lifestyle, accessibility, really business friendly, and then like the innovation. So you were seeing people leave Colorado and Denver for Austin, Nashville, different parts of Texas, kind of Dallas, and
Well, how does Jacksonville become more mature? I mean, you were in
yeah.
Denver, so you saw it. They were further along. What does Jacksonville need to do, or what can they mimic from Denver to push themselves forward in the innovation scene?
That's a great question. I think what I've noticed is everyone says that they're really excited about innovation here. And then, when it comes time to show up to an event, or, from our perspective, is the interest there from readership, right? When we write articles about true tech entrepreneurs, is the interest there, or do folks want to read about this? I think there's an element of actually showing up, and I think it does take, I do think that our city, we want to fancy ourselves as a fintech hub. And I think it's taking that seriously, and that means incentives, you know what I mean, from a city level, incentives from a state level, because that's what these big companies look at, right? They're looking at, I mean, if they're in England or London and they're a big fintech company and they're thinking about investing in here, they want to know, like, is this going to math out? You know what I mean? Is this going to pencil out, and is the math going to work? And does it make the most sense? So I think being serious about that and making sure that we're willing to do those things. And then when you see an exciting company rising up, it's as simple as just showing up and supporting them and doing what you can. And, if it makes sense for your business, can you be one of their first customers? Can you do that? Does it make sense? It doesn't always make sense, but when it does and when you can, I think that's all really important.
Yeah. I'm going to send you a picture tomorrow whenever I'm going to show you the size of the crowd.
Okay.
I'm gonna tell you. I think we're trending in the right direction in 2026 about people showing up, and Raghu and I are going to be the solution.
I love it.
I feel that way.
Yeah.
In the past year, in 2025, I just feel like it was a moment of a lot of big stories, Stadium of the Future, all the projects that are going on, etc. I typically read the Business Journal to read about the small businesses.
Mm-hmm.
I know how hard entrepreneurship is. Part of my journey is to help lower the barrier of entry to entrepreneurship. So, in all the stories that kind of came through the journal, I understand you can't read them all.
Yeah.
But which one was your favorite? I mean, when you saw somebody building something, or you saw somebody uniting an ecosystem, or you saw somebody doing something that was so much larger than them, does anything stand out?
Oh man, that's really good. That's a good question. I try my best to read. I don't read all of them. I do read most of them. So I'm not going to even try to remember names, but I will try to remember, you know what I mean? Just some of, and I apologize if anybody that I am referencing, sees or hears this and I, don't get it right.
I put you on the spot.
It's okay. One that comes to mind, which I just thought was incredible. This young woman is going to be at our Mentoring Monday event in a couple of weeks, but she is a young woman who, started her own business, and I'm pretty sure it's some element of construction. She's in construction. It's like homes, right? I don't think it's home building, but I think it has to do with it has something to do with residential home building. But she just decided, because I think she had like a technical degree, like in engineering or something like that. And she just kind of kept hitting, you know what I mean? Like getting doors slammed in her face, like of the men who wouldn't actually go out and do the work. And so she was like, I'm going to go do this myself. And so she actually like trained herself and went and got proper certification and did everything she needed to do to be able to actually do the work herself. And she's actually out there, designing, building, doing all of these things, and has employees now. And I'm pretty sure she's like 27.
Wow.
Yeah. And so a male dominated industry. She was getting the door slammed in her face. And so she was just literally like, you know what? I have the engineering background. I'm gonna go get certified to actually do these things and knock those barriers down. That one, you know what I mean, stuck with me, because that's just like, geez, I did not have that kind of resolve when I was like a 25-year-old, 26-year-old, whatever it was, when she actually went and did that. But incredibly impressive, and like her business is doing well. It's not like it's just this rinky dink operation. She's actually successful and doing really cool things. Yeah.
I mean, it's stories like that. I mean, if that turns into something like a flagship company, I mean, people are going to be able to point to that and say, listen, the resolve on that was great, but she was able to build that in Jacksonville. Maybe I can build in Jacksonville too.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I want to see people starting to like see the success of their companies, so that other people will be like, they built that in Jacksonville. And you touched on Austin and Nashville earlier. Austin's my hometown. So like, I want to kind of bring Austin to Jacksonville a little bit. And my big thing is it's this triangle. It's Austin, it's Nashville, it's Jacksonville. And they're big cities in tax-free states with rivers flowing through the heart of them. Two of them have taken advantage of it. One of them hasn't. I'll give you one guess on who hasn't. It seems like we're starting to. The infrastructure is being laid. Ultimately, you need to have a place where people can unite, people can talk, people can share ideas, people can collaborate, etc. And then from there, the energy can kind of just spread like a ripple. So that's what we're going to try to do in 2026, man, and beyond. So that's what we're doing. What's the JBJ going to do? What's 2026 got in store for the journal?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first and foremost, it really starts with our journalists, and the work that they do. We have a small and mighty team. We've got 4 journalists, 2 editors, and they are responsible for covering all 5 counties in Northeast Florida. So a tough task, and it's big, right?
Yep.
We all know that. We all know how large, you know what I mean, just Duval County alone is, and when you add in the other 4, there's a lot going on. A lot of stories to tell. So our main focus always is, how do our journalists find out information before it's public, let our readers know, and tell them why they should care, right? Like, how is this going to help them run their business? How is this going to help them start their business, right? Like, if we're going to share something about, we will sometimes say, hey, this business is for sale, right? We'll write stories about that. The whole point of that is if there's someone sitting at their desk at a corporate company thinking, man, I really want to take a shot on myself and go out there and do it. You know what I mean? Maybe this resonates with them, and maybe it turns into something. Or like you were saying, if this person can do it, can I do it? Or I was thinking about going into business with this company, and we just wrote this article. I'm like, oh, maybe I'm not going to, right? Whatever it is, we want to provide information about the local economy that is going to help local business leaders make better decisions about running their business. So that is always our aim. Our editors and our journalists are laser focused on that. They want to do that. Our mission is to help local businesses grow. That is the mission of the entire, business journal. So whether we're writing stories, we're putting out top 25 lists, we're conducting interviews, or, from an event perspective, the events that we put on, their award events our aim with those is to highlight the best individuals and companies in Jacksonville, because it's, hey, you should hire these people, you should retain these people, or you should look at these companies, right? I don't know how many emails I get from folks that have the little best place to work badge on their email signature, or fastest growing companies, because there's some validation to that, credibility that comes with it when you're bidding for work, when you're trying to attract employees, doing those things. So that's why we do that. And when we do our panel events, it's content. We're trying to deliver content to you that you wouldn't get anywhere else to help you with that. And same thing on the advertising side, right? Our philosophy is we approach every single, opportunity as a partnership. And we really mean it, because that can sound kitschy, right? Mm-hmm. But it really is. If there's a general contractor that just started last year and they want to get their name out there, they're giving us their marketing budget, they're kind of pushing all their chips in, and we need to treat it as such, and we need to care, and we need to give a damn, and I say that a lot with my team. But, whether it's a, giant publicly traded company that's headquartered in Jacksonville that does business with us, or it's a, local nonprofit, whatever it is, we truly approach that as a partner and as a partnership. So that's our aim, is to be a champion of all the, great momentum that we have in Jacksonville. We want to be a megaphone, and we want to, shout it from the rooftops what we're doing. We want to get it out to, anybody and everybody who will listen, the great things that are going on here in Jacksonville. We want to celebrate the people and the companies that are doing the best work. And then, through our partnerships, we want to help our partners grow their business by reaching the clients that they want to reach.
That's special.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that. When it's all said and done in Jacksonville for you, whenever it's time for you to take the next step in the business journal world, or it's time to hang it up, whatever the case may be, when you're done with the work that you're doing in Jacksonville, Florida, what legacy would you like to leave?
That's a good question. Well, I'll start off by saying that when my CEO asked me about this position, I was very clear. I said, I got one move left in me, and I want my kids to grow up somewhere. So this is my last stop for the business journals. And I plan on being here for a long time. And that's what's exciting about Jacksonville, is if I can just maintain the growth of the business journal at the same rate the city's growing in, I'm going to have a really good time, and I'm not going to get bored for a very long. There's a long runway there.
Yep.
Just to kind of keep growing alongside the city and doing those things. I would say the legacy I'd want to leave behind is I want the Jacksonville Business Journal to be regarded as the best, media publication in Northeast Florida. I want us to be looked at as champions of local business leaders and local businesses, but also not shying away from tough stories when there's tough stories to tell, right? Because we're not in good news. We're just in news. So, being able to tell the stories that we need to tell, not shying away from that. And I would just say that, yeah. And then for me personally, in my role, I would just want people to know that I left it all out there for Jacksonville, that I did every single thing I could to help business leaders get connected to who they wanted to get connected to, get the information that they wanted to get. And maybe they could say that I really gave a damn. If they said that, I think that'd be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, awesome.
Yeah.
Kind of towards wrapping it up stage, but a callback to earlier, you got the job because of a cold email. How receptive are you now, knowing that that was what put you on your path to receiving those cold emails from college students or other people who are just very energetic about trying to make a difference? Are you on the receiving end of those, and how important is it to you to respond to them?
Yeah, that's a good question. I get a lot. I think a lot of people get a lot of cold emails. There's a lot of junk out there. Post COVID, a lot of
Automated.
a lot of air quote tech companies will say, we'll do your cold outreach for you. And it's a lot of AI or outsourced stuff that's just very bad and has nothing to do with who you are and what you do. Right. So I got a cold outreach last week from someone, and it was personal. It was real. It's like, hey, I was with this business person. They brought you up. They mentioned some really good things about you. Would you be interested in grabbing coffee just to learn more about what I do? And I'm like, that was a good one. Like, yes, to your point, they're a young person, just got out of college. They're in their first job, and I appreciated the way they approached it. And so I said, yeah, let's do it. And we met up this week, and I heard about what they do, and they told me about those things, so, and I looked for ways that I could help them out. I was like, who can I connect you with? Who could I, gave them one of our book of lists, and did that, because I do think it's important. And I do think that if someone is genuine and someone has put some thought into why they're reaching out, then like I said, I was just a young punk who got a chance, and so if there's anybody out there that I can help out in the same way, then I'm more than happy to.
Yeah, you got to pay it forward, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, what I miss?
I don't know, man. You had me yapping away there for quite a bit. I think I
did my job.
No, I think we just about covered it. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll make you a deal. 6 months from now, 8 months from now, whatever. We'll see some things get built. We'll see some companies rise. We'll put some really cool stories out there, and let's have you back and let's talk about them.
Would love that.
Okay. Hey,
Sounds
man,
great.
thanks for being on.
Yeah,
Dude.
absolutely.
What a pleasure.
Yeah, appreciate you. Thank you.